Hello everyone, welcome. Today we're going to be doing a review over the Broadway Limited Paragon 3 K4s. This one is actually going to be about the long tender variant, or the long haul tender. So we'll be going over that, going over some of the sounds, going over some of the details. So we'll go ahead and get to the unboxing and see how it looks. Alright, we're here with the box. As you can see, it's a standard Paragon 3 Broadway Limited box. It's a darker gray now with Paragon 3 boxes. If I bring right here, this is an M1 Bravo box. You see it's a little bit lighter of a gray, so they did kind of change that with their newer runs of Paragon 3 locomotives. On the side we have K4s 5385 with the long haul tender pre-war variant. And here's exploded parts diagram, operator's manual. Alright, and I have actually taken this out of the box once, so just to check and make sure, but it has been a very long time. On top you have your tender in this particular case. And there's the tender itself, if I can get it to stay up. And here's the actual locomotive. We'll go and get this out here in just a moment. Other parts in here. See the extra traction tire. Looks like a scale coupler. And the removal tool for the drivers. Packaging to keep it dry. And finally, smoke fluid funnel. Paragon 3 locomotives don't come with smoke fluid, that has to be bought separate now. Paragon 2 runs. The very first thing I would like to show with this engine is taking it in and out of the box on occasion. This does actually happen. You can see there's a small gap right here. I found tweezers, this will work a little bit better. You can see that the actual boiler front piece will come off. But it's no big deal, it just slides right back on. And it will stay there and you won't even notice. I'll turn it here a little bit. You can see front coupler, as with most of Broadway Limited engines. This is just a regular plastic coupler. Nothing really fancy about it. It will work, but eventually this will get replaced with a metal K4s one that will look a little bit better. So going around the front of the engine here, you can see this is the pre-war version, so it does have the marker lamps. Now with that, with engines like the H10 and I believe the L1, these come lit. On this particular version, they are not. They're just marker lights with gems in them. And it does reflect pretty nicely, however, it would have been nice if they're lit, since this was, you know, about the same price as what an L1 would be. Alright, going around the side here. Bell does actually move, like with most of them. They have very good detailing as far as grab irons and things go. And something I am going to hold up and show. I know that this was an issue with the L1. This back truck right here, there is a piece, so it's not just open. I know on the L1 that is open, you can see the spring and the linkage. A little bit more with that back truck, but on this particular engine, that seems to have been remedied. So that is a very nice thing to have now. Something else I've noticed with this, you're looking at how to connect it to the tender. This is new. This is not something I have even on my M1 Bravo with the Paragon 3. The actual cable link comes from the locomotive on this one. So when connecting this to your tender, you're going to want to connect this first, which is a little bit backwards from what Broadway Limited usually does. And then you actually have this now. So this used to be, if you're familiar with it, a metal slit that came out here, and then on the tender you would have a small metal tube kind of piece, and that would actually go in. This is very similar to how my Lifelike or Walther's Proto 2000 2882 mallet is, which you have a piece just like this that sticks into the tender, and then you have your cabling right here. The only difference being is that this goes straight into the tender versus the Walther's, which actually goes up from the actual bottom of the tender. So I'm going back, makes it a little bit closer. You can see some of the details in there. It's just a little bit of molding. It's nothing too fancy. It's not a lit cab like the H10 would be, or the yellow one for that matter. But you still get your figurines on the inside, on both sides. They are still in here. Your piece on the roof here, that does move. I know some of them, I don't believe it does, which is actually surprising. My Q2s doesn't, but it is there. So same kind of detail going around the other side of the locomotive. Obviously you're still going to have the same great detail just on the opposite side. You're going to be able to read a lot of the fine print things, such as builder's plate right here. Alright, and like I said, this K4 does come with the long haul tender. It's not typical of their models. This, I believe, is the first run that I've seen actually come with this type of tender with the K4. It's nothing new as far as tenders go. Long haul tenders are very common with the Pennsylvania Railroad, but as far as a K4, it is quite odd to see. So it is a pretty basic tender. I believe it's the exact same as what comes with the M1 Bravo, with certain exceptions obviously. But you do get a piece of foam right here to guard the handrails. It's nothing major. There's no train phone antenna on it. You do have the marker lights on the back. Now these are the same as what is on the engine. These are just gems, they are not lit. So that, like I said, would have been very, very nice to actually have. You do have very nice crisp lettering on the side, a little bit of detail you can see in the reflection there. Good trucks, good underside detail. As far as the scoop goes, which is never really seen, but it's always nice to have. We'll get around here to the back of the actual tender. And see if we can get that focus. You can read all that. That is the type of tender and the capability of it. It's good because it's actually easier to read in the camera than it is trying to read just with trying to focus on it. I'll come back to the other side. This is still same tender. You have a very nice color on top. Right now, here we have the front of the tender. You can see that little opening there. That's where that top piece is going to go to actually connect the locomotive physically with the tender. And then electrically you have your, I believe it's an 8-pin socket. Alright, now that we've looked at the tender, let's go ahead and get the locomotive put together. I'll put it on the test track and take a couple looks at it. One real quick thing before we get this on the test track. I want to show off actually trying to connect this to the tender. Looking at that cable right here, this is where it connects into. It's very difficult if you're trying to actually put it together on the test track. It's so much easier to actually just flip it over like this, which most people are already aware of. But with it being backwards, it is kind of weird. It's no real difference, but if you're trying to put it together, you're going to have these steps in the way. So it's kind of recessed into there, so it's just easier to get to from the bottom. You don't have to worry about connecting the tender physically to the engine yet. You're still going to have this in here. You just got to get it in that hole. And then once you get the pin and socket put together, then you can actually press it against each other. It's just going to pop in place. And while we're under the bottom of the engine, I have it tilted over. You can see right here, you have off. Now if we could see, this would be your smoke unit. And this engine is equipped with smoke like most of the new ones are. Let's put this down. This would be an on, which there isn't an on lettering on here, but there's the off just so you know where position the switch is. So I usually leave mine off. I'm going to leave it off until I get either more smoke fluid or I get something a little bit more permanent. Right now the engine's on mute. We'll go and look at how it moves. And we'll go and back it up and see the slow speed scale. See how well it actually moves forward without any jerkiness. And then we'll go and actually hear how it sounds with it moving. Okay, we got the engine back. We'll go ahead and get it forward. And I'm going to go move it to speed step 1. So you can kind of tell by this small amount of movement, it's not really going anywhere. It's a lot of jerkiness at 1. I'm gonna get it up to 2 now. 3. The 3, it seems to have all gone away. It is going pretty slow for what it is right now. I don't have anything to actually measure the scale speed, but you can tell it is still very slow. It could probably even be turned down a little bit, but it's not really going that fast. There's no jerkiness anymore. It's all gone. We'll do the same in reverse and see how well that does. Got up to 1. There's a little bit of the humming in the background. Alright, and again we're up to speed step 3, and it's finally started to actually go without any real jerkiness or anything. And it seems to be alright. So we'll go and stop it here. Turn the volume back on. Get it to go forward. You can hear it actually chuff a little bit and hear that sound. Without any sound on or anything, you can see how the headlight looks, just from what the camera looks like. I know it's not the best camera, and headlights are hard to actually capture with a camera, but you can tell it is an LED. It is very bright, but it's still not that kind of bluish tinted. It is a nice warm glow. It could probably be dimmed down a little bit, just to go back to how headlights actually used to look, and they weren't actually this bright, but it's still a pretty decent look from just having an LED in the actual headlight. With all that being said, the engine is still a phenomenal engine. I know it's going to pull a lot. The detail's all there. Sound is all there. Sound is very nice. May not be exactly prototypically accurate, but it is still a very nice whistle, bell, and just normal sounding riding locomotive. We'll probably buy a short tender one eventually, whenever it comes around to it. Until then, I do really appreciate this engine. We'll be going off more of the sounds of the rest of what Broadway Limited puts out, and we'll see if we can get a comparison, because I know most of their sounds are pretty similar, but we'll try and get a couple locomotives together and see if there is any difference. That'll be another video. Past that, thank you for watching, comment, subscribe, and if you have any other requests, please feel free to leave in the comment section.